So I'm filming in my bedroom today. It's nice and cozy in here. And I've got my cat on the bed with me, which I think is quite fitting for the topic of this video because animals really can be such an excellent support, not just to people suffering with mental illness, but also to the people who love those suffering with mental illness. Animals are, you know, really a wonderful source of affection and non-judgmental presence. So my cat Harley is just sitting at my feet, and hopefully she won't interrupt this video too much, but if she does, she's very cute. So, she might come over and say hi. I just want to start off this video, as I often do with topics like this, just by prefacing it with saying that I am not a mental health professional. I'm not approaching this discussion as an expert or as anyone with any sort of mental health expertise. I'm approaching this as someone who has both struggled with my own mental health issues, but also as someone who loves people who have mental health issues. I've had several loved ones in my life who have struggled with significant mental health issues, and I am really just trying to open up a discussion about what it's like to be the loved one of a person who has significant mental health struggles, whether that is depression, like major depressive disorder, bipolar, um, anxiety, perhaps a personality disorder like BPD, any significant mental health issue, perhaps a mood disorder, what it's like to have a loved one who struggles in that way. And I specifically want to approach this discussion from the point of view of a romantic partner. But a lot of the things that I say could also apply to friends or family members. So hopefully you will find this discussion valuable if you have a loved one who struggles with a significant mental health condition. But I just specifically, for the sake of narrowing down the discussion, for the sake of making it more relevant to what I want to talk about, I want to talk about having a romantic partner who struggles significantly with their mental health. And I'm not talking about, the way that most people will temporarily struggle with their mental health. There comes a time in the life of pretty much every human being when our mental health might not be the best. You know, stressful circumstances, difficult things that happen to us in life can cause us to temporarily struggle with mental health. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone who has a persistent mental health condition that they struggle with on an ongoing basis. So it's something that's not temporary. It's something that is kind of lasting. That's more what I'm talking about. Um, and I want to approach this discussion from the point of view of just discussing what the experience is like to be that person who loves someone with a mental health condition, and what you can expect, why it's so difficult, what you should do. And again, I'm not saying that I have all the answers, very far from it, very, very far from it. I'm just really wanting to open up a discussion and I welcome you to leave your thoughts and your comments, and let's all help each other to kind of be better equipped for these sorts of situations. So I think the way that I'll start off this discussion is by just highlighting 3 aspects that you should probably be prepared for if you decide to enter into a relationship with someone who has a significant mental health condition. The first aspect is that you need to be prepared for the fact that society at large, and very likely many of your loved ones, are not going to support your decision to be in a relationship with someone who has a significant mental health condition. Why would they? A mental health condition is something that is incredibly difficult and taxing for the person who struggles and for the people who love them. Mental health conditions require a lot of work and a lot of management and a lot of ongoing therapy and support and introspection and trying various strategies to see what helps. And so it takes a toll on the person struggling and on the person who loves them. And so why would anyone looking on at your relationship, why would anyone want that for you? Of course, they don't want that for you. They want an easier life for you. So if you ask others for advice, just be prepared for the fact that 9 times out of 10, they're going to advise you to walk away from the relationship. And they're not wrong necessarily for advising you that. They want what's best for you. They want you to be happy. They want you to have support and to be cared for. And someone who has a significant mental health condition, say for example, a major depressive disorder, isn't able to provide the level of care that perhaps most people would want in a relationship. Someone who has depression, for instance, is primarily concerned with managing their own mental health. They may not have a great deal left over to give you as the partner. And so can you really blame your family and friends and, society in general for advising you against getting into a relationship with someone like that? And I'm not saying that I agree with that advice. I don't think that that advice is always correct, however well-intentioned it is. It is up to each person to decide whether a relationship is right for them or not, and it really isn't anyone else's choice or decision. And as well-meaning as our family and friends might be, it's still up to the individual to decide if that relationship is something that they want. But I just want to highlight the fact, and I think it's something we don't talk about enough, the fact that when we go to our friends and family and even to well-meaning strangers for advice, even therapists, the advice is going to tend to err on the side of caution. And the advice we're going to get is mostly going to, encourage us to steer clear of being in a relationship with someone who has a serious mental health condition. I remember years ago when I still used to read blogs of dating coaches and watch dating coaches advice videos, etc. When I still used to follow the advice of, a number of dating coaches. I remember reading an article on Evan Marc Katz's website where someone had written in asking if they they were a person who had depression, and if they should, whether or not it was a good idea for them to date. And Evan Marc Katz had essentially replied to them saying that he wasn't going to tell them that they weren't worthy of love, that of course they were worthy of a relationship and of love, but that he couldn't, in good conscience, advise anyone to date a person who had depression. And I remember at the time thinking, well, that all sounds very rational and logical, but isn't that just incredibly sad that we have come to a point where we are steering people away from loving those who have a significant mental health issue like depression? I just think it's really, really sad because I think every one of us deserves love. Every one of us deserves acceptance, and we deserve the chance at a relationship if that is at all possible. Now, of course, if you have a mental health condition, I think it would only be realistic to accept that it's not going to be possible to have a relationship with as many people as someone who doesn't have a significant mental health condition. You're going to need a very specific type of person, a very patient, understanding, and supportive type of person. And a lot of people are simply not going to be up for that challenge. So I think one needs to be realistic about it. But I just think that it is kind of unfortunate and kind of sad that the tendency is for people to steer you away from being in a relationship with someone who has a significant mental health condition, like, say, bipolar disorder or depression, or even anxiety. I've heard it all. I've heard all kinds of very judgmental statements being made about the ability of someone who has significant mental health issues to be in a relationship. And maybe this is a good point to just briefly describe my own struggles with mental health. So I've never had depression, but I have struggled on and off with anxiety for most of my life. I've had many panic attacks throughout the years, and I'm very well acquainted with what it means to struggle with anxiety. And I am very indebted to and grateful for the loved ones that I've had who have supported me through difficult times with my anxiety. I honestly don't think I would still be here if it weren't for some very, very special people who came alongside me and loved me and supported me during times when I was struggling with anxiety. Um, and that includes romantic partners. So that's just the first thing I want to highlight. And this is honestly a topic that probably warrants its own video. But just be aware that many people will not support your decision to be in a relationship with someone who has a significant mental health condition. They'll say things to you like, is this really what you want for yourself? Would you not rather have someone who had more emotional and mental and physical capacity to be there for you? Do you not want someone who doesn't struggle in this way? Don't you want someone who is more able to give to you? Are you really able to do this? Is this really what you want for yourself? These are the sorts of things that you're going to hear if you tell your family and friends that you are in a relationship with someone who has depression or anxiety or some sort of significant mental health condition. So I would say be discerning with who you talk to and who you ask for advice, because there is a general lack of understanding when it comes to a lot of mental health issues. And a lot of people will make very ignorant statements and will be quite callous and insensitive and dismissive. So if that sort of thing is going to hurt you, if it's going to hurt you to hear advice or comments that is quite callous and dismissive of mental health struggles, then I would say just be very, very careful about who you talk to and who you sort of confide in. Even therapists are not necessarily always, you can't take it for granted that therapists are going to be very well informed about serious mental health conditions. They should be. One would hope that it would form part of their education. And yet, sadly, I have experienced therapists who are actually quite alarmingly ignorant when it comes to, certain mental health conditions, and they sometimes say things that are a bit insensitive. So just, go with what feels right in your heart. Follow your intuition, follow your gut. Confide in people who feel safe to you, and see if you can just find maybe one or two trusted people who are well acquainted with mental health conditions, who maybe have some sort of level of understanding and empathy about, the specific condition that you are dealing with or that your partner is dealing with. And just try to only talk to people who are sensitive and empathetic and well informed, and just be careful of asking for the opinions of people who don't really understand mental health topics, very well. The second thing that I want to talk about is, again, maybe something that's a little bit taboo or an unpopular thing to talk about, but I think it is something that it is just essential to be aware of and to be prepared for if you get into a relationship with someone who has a significant mental health condition. And that is that there are definitely going to be times when your partner who struggles with a mental health condition is not going to be able to meet your needs in the relationship. That is something you can probably take as a given. Now, obviously, it depends on the extent to which they struggle. The more severe the mental health condition is, the more frequently they struggle, obviously, the less able they're going to be to meet your needs. And if you're dealing with someone who has a less serious mental health condition, like, for example, myself, yes, I struggle with anxiety, but these days I don't struggle with it very much or very often. It's only something that comes up every now and again, possibly once a month, possibly once every few months, even if I'm lucky. And my anxious spells or panic attacks generally only last for a few hours and then they blow over. So it doesn't necessarily impact my ability to emotionally be there for a partner all that much. But still, there will be times when I won't be able to meet the emotional needs of someone as well as other times. But then if you're talking about someone who, say, struggles with quite serious or severe depression, you're talking about someone who is going to have limited capacity to meet your emotional needs in the relationship. And I'm not saying that they will never be able to meet your needs, It very much depends on, as I say, on the severity of the depression and on what tools and coping strategies they have to manage their depression or their mental illness. But you do just need to be prepared for the fact that this is most likely not going to be an equal relationship in terms of meeting one another's emotional needs. They are going to have times when they're not going to be able to meet your needs. You might have times when you want them to be there for you physically or emotionally or mentally, when you want encouragement or support or affection or understanding, or you want someone to listen to you and be present with you and to provide moral support. And there are going to be times when they don't have the capacity to do that. And I think being prepared for that in advance is important, because if we know that in advance, it just helps to maybe temper the disappointment that we might feel during those times when we want or expect our partner to be there for us and they're not able to. And I've certainly experienced this, loving someone who has depression. There might be a time when I need understanding and empathy and support, and my partner is not able to provide that. And in the beginning, it certainly it was more difficult because it was unexpected. I didn't realize it in the beginning. I just had these expectations for a relationship that one's partner should always be there for you, when you need them. And when you love someone who has depression, that is just not always going to be the case. I know that my partner will try, and if they are at all able to, they will meet my needs as best as they can. But there are going to be times, if they're in a depressive episode, there are going to be times when they're not able to meet my needs for support or for encouragement or for reassurance. And I think knowing beforehand, before you get into a relationship with someone who has a serious mental health condition, knowing that beforehand does help, because you can be prepared and it can help you to manage your expectations and perhaps be ready to seek support elsewhere, and to not blame your partner if they're not able to meet your needs in that moment, and to understand that if they could meet your needs, they would, but they're just not able to right now. I was talking to a friend of mine who also has a partner who struggles with depression. And he was saying that this is not the sort of relationship that you get into if you expect things to be equal all the time. This is a relationship that requires a lot of selflessness and sacrifice and patience and understanding. And again, I think we don't talk about these topics because it's not a popular or pleasant thing to talk about. We want to believe that relationships can be perfect, that perfection is something we can strive for, and that, we can hold our partners to these standards. But I think it is important to open up a discussion about these topics and to talk about the hard stuff, because someone who loves a person with depression, someone who loves a person who has a serious mental health condition, needs a place where they can talk openly about these things, where they can talk about um, their feelings, and they need a safe space to know that they're not alone, and that, there's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing that they've done. It's just that this is what it means to love someone who has depression or who has a serious mental health condition. This is just what goes along with the territory. And I think also perhaps knowing that helps us as partners to appreciate those times when our partner is able to be there for us. You know, during times when they're stronger, when they have more capacity and they're able to meet our needs, we're able to really treasure and appreciate those times. But it is important to know that it's not going to be 100% of the time, and not to expect that. Um, and I think it's also important to know that before you choose to get into a relationship with someone who has a serious mental health condition, you need to know that these hard times will come when you might want your partner to be there and they're not going to be able to be there for you. And that sacrifice and selflessness and being able to get your needs met elsewhere is going to go along with the territory. And knowing that in advance can help you decide whether that relationship is for you or not. The final thing I want to talk about, and that I think you need to know if you love someone who has a serious mental health condition, is that you're going to have some days when you feel strong and some days when you don't feel strong, and that's okay. So you might be feeling strong today. Today you might feel as if you can bear the I don't want to call it a burden, maybe the weight of the mental health condition. You can manage it more easily. It feels like a lighter weight to bear. And then tonight or tomorrow, it might feel too heavy and it might feel too difficult. And that's going to come and go. Your strength levels are going to come and go, most probably. You're going to have good days and not so good days. You're going to have times when it feels easier and times when it feels more difficult. And that's okay. And that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. And it doesn't mean that you don't love your partner. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad partner. It doesn't mean that you're not there for them. It just means that you're a human being. As human beings, we can't be strong all the time. That goes for all areas of our lives, not just mental health. It goes for every area of our lives. We're not always going to be perfect, and we're not always going to be strong. Sometimes we're going to feel weak. Sometimes things are going to feel difficult. And it's important to have kindness and grace and forgiveness for yourself during those times. And to enjoy the times when you feel strong, to enjoy the times when you feel like this is something that you can do. And then there might be times when you feel like you can't do it. And it's just important to evaluate how bad are the times that you feel, when you feel like you can't do it. How bad are those times? And how often do they come? And just to weigh it all up in the balance to see, is this relationship right for you or not? I'm never ever going to sit here and tell you that you should leave the relationship. That's not my place. I would never do that. I would never advise anyone whether or not to leave a relationship. That is for each person to decide for themselves how much they can bear and whether the good outweighs the bad for them. It's for each person to make that decision. And I personally feel that it's wrong when others pressure a person to leave a relationship, because that really is up to the individual. It's each person's personal choice to make. But I do think, one thing I will say is that you need to expect that there are going to be good days and bad days, days that are easier and days that are more difficult. And you just need to weigh it all up in the balance to see whether this is something on the whole that you want for yourself. And is this something that you feel able to do? Is this something you want to do? And on that note, it's, I think, something which will help to set you up for success is if you have a really robust support system, and if you have things in your life that you can regularly turn to that fill up your cup, that give you joy, that recharge your batteries. Because loving someone who has depression or some other mental health condition does deplete you at times. You're giving a lot in terms of patience and understanding and empathy and support. And as I mentioned earlier, you're not always necessarily getting the same amount back from your partner, which is okay. They're not always able to reciprocate in the same way. But that means that you do need to have other sources that you can turn to refill your tank, to fill up your cup again, to recharge your batteries. So it's very important to have plenty of things in your life that give you joy. You need to have outlets where you can relax and just let off steam. It's very important to get a lot of rest. It's important to be feeding yourself properly, get proper nutrition, be getting a good night's sleep most nights, if not every night. It's important to have boundaries and to have breaks as well. Sometimes if we're in a world which is dominated by mental health issues, it can feel a bit heavy and oppressive at times. And so it is very important to take a break from that heaviness and that oppression at times. Even with your partner, it's important not to always be talking about the problems and about the mental health condition. It's very important to have, fun topics that you talk about, light topics that you talk about, topics that have nothing to do with the mental health condition, just to take the focus off the mental health condition and have other things. It's important to make that effort to have other things that you focus your attention on, because that'll also help to refill your tank. Have common interests that you share with your partner, things that that you can talk about that can engage their interest, that don't have to do with the depression or the mental health condition. And then it's important, obviously, to have relationships outside of that relationship too, friendships and relationships with family where you can talk about other things and where you can laugh and get support and also be loved and cared for, and to have hobbies and interests, and things that just make you smile. And again, as I say, very, very important to care for yourself and make sure that you're well rested, that you're taking time off, and not burning the candle at both ends. It's so important to really prioritize self-care and to have boundaries around how much you focus on the problems and on the mental health condition, because that will also help you to be a better support in the long run for your partner and for yourself. You know, it'll help to make you stronger if you're prioritizing taking care of yourself. That really needs to be your number one priority. Of course, you love your partner and you want to be there for them, and I'm sure that you are there for them, and you provide support and understanding and patience and empathy. But it's equally as important to be prioritizing your own well-being. So I just want to end off this video with something that I saw on Facebook a few days ago that I just thought was so beautiful. It seems as if this was something that was written by a person who has some sort of significant mental health condition, and they're writing this to their partner. And I just thought it was so beautiful, and I could really, really relate to it. It really resonated with me. And if you are someone who loves someone who has a mental health condition, and you know what that's like, and you know how challenging it can be, and yet you also know how much you love your partner, perhaps it'll resonate with you as well. So it goes like this. I choose you, not because you're perfect or because you fit neatly into some imagined version of my life, but because in your presence I feel the world shift. I choose you for the way your laughter cuts through the noise, for the way your silence speaks volumes when words fail. I choose you for the way you see me, not as I am, but as I could be, as I hope to be. You are the mirror that reflects my best self, even when I feel broken. I choose you because you are the calm in my chaos, the anchor in my storm. You are the hand I reach for when the world feels too heavy, the voice that whispers, "You're not alone," even when I'm drowning in doubt. I choose you because you don't just love me, you choose me too, every day, in ways big and small. You choose me when I'm difficult, when I'm distant, when I'm lost. You choose me even when I forget how to choose myself. I choose you because love isn't just a feeling. It's a decision, a commitment, a promise. And I promise to choose you, not just in the easy moments, but in the hard ones too. When the weight of life presses down, when the road ahead feels uncertain, when the world tries to pull us apart, I will choose you again and again, without hesitation, without regret. I choose you because you are my home, my safe place, my beginning and my end. You are the story I want to keep writing, the song I want to keep singing, the life I want to keep living. I choose you because in a world full of noise and distractions, you are the quiet, steady truth I keep coming back to. You are my always, my forever, my one undeniable choice.